Listen, I'm gonna go ahead and get this part out of the way because the hearing folk on Twitter did not seem to comprehend this no matter how many times it was said. Nobody is condoning the kidnapping of the deaf baby. Or at least I am not condoning the kidnapping of the deaf baby. So recently a new show called Accused has been out, and it is a drama crime TV show, and basically every week there is a new story, brand new characters, and it's just never the same. And last week was a very special episode for the deaf community because we had a deaf-centered episode with deaf characters, a deaf storyline, deaf representation. Properly done, mind you, of course. The episode called Ava's Story was directed by Matley Matlin. We all know her. We know who she is. And the episode stars Stephanie Noguez, who plays Ava, and Joshua Castile, who plays KJ. So in this episode, you have a married couple, Max and Jenny, and they are wanting a child, but they cannot have a child the traditional way, and so they go through surrogacy. And Ava, who's played by Stephanie, offers to be the surrogate. She applied, Jenny liked her, and said, yes, we would like you to have the baby for us. 9 months later, baby Lucy is born, and lo and behold, a hearing test has been failed. Baby Lucy is deaf. Jenny's kind of like, oh, well, that's okay about it. Not really, jumping head over heels, jumping for the moon, about it. But she's not like, oh, well, that's bad. Her husband, however, is the worst. Oh my God. Her husband is just not happy about it at all. Now, I've said this before, you don't need to be, head over heels jumping for the moon when you find out that your child is deaf. You have every right to be like, oh, that's a little bit concerning. I'm a little bit worried. I don't know how to, navigate this. That just happens when you don't really know deaf people in your life. That happens. But Max is a jerk. So basically, long story short, the whole thing with the episode is that there's this battle about wanting to implant Lucy with a cochlear implant. Ava doesn't like that very much. She thinks that there is some abuse that's going to happen in the household beyond the whole cochlear implant thing, and so she kidnaps Lucy and says that she's going to take her to Michigan, I believe, and she gets caught. She turns herself in, something like that, and there's a trial, and she gets off scot-free. So before we get down to the nitty-gritty of the episode, I'm talking about cochlear implants and the negligence that the hearing audience was claiming a lot on Twitter. For those that don't know, because chances are there's going to be somebody new coming into this and watching this video, I want to talk about the difference between hearing aids and cochlear implants. So starting with the lesser of the two in terms of how powerful they are and how invasive, for lack of a better word. So hearing aids are an assistive hearing device that you go to the audiologist for. You get your audiogram done, and there is a mold that they put into your ear. As you can see, I have hearing aids, and you have the little mold. You can get whatever color you want usually, and then you have the hardware that loops around here, right? And you can just go in, take it off, and then you just put it back in. You put them in and out with ease, and there is no surgery involved. Cochlear implants, however, are stronger. They're usually for those who cannot get hearing aids to work for them. They need something a little bit more powerful. So cochlear implants are the next step, and those do require surgery because you have to have part of the device inserted into your head, and then you have some other hardware that is on the outside, and you have a little magnet that comes on the side of your head. And the difference between hearing aids and cochlear implants, besides what I already said, is that hearing aids simply amplify the sound, so damaged hearing will detect that if they can, whereas cochlear implants just kind of bypass that whole thing, and they're actually stimulating a nerve, the auditory nerve to be exact. Both devices in themselves are not evil. We'll get more into depth about that in a second, but I want to get that out of the way, just like the disclaimer about not condoning the kidnapping of baby Lucy. Both of these devices, especially cochlear implants, because they are more of a controversial topic in the community, are not inherently evil. It is not cochlear implants bad right off the bat. So Max is quite the character, right? I mentioned that. He's a real big jerk for the majority of this episode until the very last 60 seconds. He is a real ableist jerk. A music lover, I believe he makes music for a living. When they find out that she's deaf and all of that, he is so worried about the fact that she will not be able to like enjoy music and be able to have he's afraid that she won't be able to bond with him because of that. To which I say that's absolutely bogus, because obviously we have deaf musicians, we have deaf rappers, we have deaf singers that sing, you know, like pop music, things like that, guitar players, drummers, violinists. So deaf people are involved in the music industry, and lots of us listen to music. One of the things that really sets Max off is when he finds out just now that Jenny had a deaf great aunt named Margot. He gets all upset about the fact that Jenny never told him, and he blames the whole having a deaf surrogate, having Ava be the surrogate, thinking, oh, so you just wanted to betray me, I guess, and that's why you had Ava be the surrogate, because your great aunt was deaf. And no, I liked Ava because of her resume, or whatever you want to call it. You know, I wasn't even thinking about Margot. Like, I knew her when I was a kid. Like, I'm guessing, like, it's been so long since she's had any actual contact with her great aunt that it just never occurred to her, oh hey, here's my, you know, my family history. Apparently even Max hasn't even gone into great detail about his family history, because when she asked him, well, you haven't told me about all these other people, have you? Like, do you have any of these family members? And he just brushes it off. So he just makes it seem like it's the end of the world. Like Jenny did the worst thing that she could ever have done by not just mentioning, oh yeah, by the way, so I have a deaf great aunt before that I used to hang out with when I was like a child. And it gets so bad to the point that Max gets really abusive. Like, he's throwing stuff at Jenny, throwing things at the wall, and Ava picks up on that when she has her transcription app, you know, just hanging out by the side on the other side of the door, and that's all she really picks up. And then that's when she starts freaking out that Ava is possibly, or not Ava, for Ava is possibly freaking out over the fact that Lucy would be abused by this man. And that's when she's like, okay, I have to try to fix this. And it seems like Max had like no interest in exploring any other options. I know Jenny very loosely was talking about like having Lucy and Lucy, goodness gracious, saying those words side by side. I know that Jenny was briefly talking about the possibility of having Lucy learn ASL, and they would learn ASL, and they were talking about hearing aids and cochlear implants. So it seemed like Jenny was really up for the idea, you know, possibly at least exploring all the options. However, Max was just like, absolutely not. We'll get the cochlear implant, because if she doesn't get it by like now, if they even wait like a couple of years, then obviously it's not going to work, it's going to be horrible, Max just continues to act like Lucy is going to have the worst life ever because of this. And so Max in this is such a big problem. Like I said, cochlear implants and whatever in themselves are not bad at all. They're not evil. It's not the end of the world. And it's not the end of the world when you find out that your child is deaf, but it's also not bad that you would be like, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, just apprehensive, very nervous about it. You know, you're confused. You're like, oh my God, what do I do? But the conversation that was being had on Twitter, and like I saw people not realize just how ableist, how discriminatory, just how bad Max was. And that just confused me. Like, the episode 100% spells it out that Max has a very big, or had a very big hatred towards deafness, but people just weren't comprehending that, even though he made it very, very obvious. Like, the most that they realized was, oh, he's being a very bad husband right now because he's throwing stuff at Jenny, which is bad, but how did you miss all the other stuff? So Max was my first enemy in all of this, but there's really a bigger enemy, and that's just ableism, oralism, the history of oppression in the deaf community, you know, from the very beginning of time, and that includes, you know, Alexander Graham Bell, and there's some other, you know, high figures from way back when that have just said very discriminatory things about deaf people. So, you know, all our lives we'll see audiologists in the medical industry will see all these things from even just regular everyday people because of the industry. Just saying things like, oh, being deaf is so bad, like there's going to be a very difficult life ahead because this person is deaf. You know, they need to be fixed or cured, whatever, with cochlear implants and things like that. Audiologists, of course, will talk about the possibility of hearing aids and cochlear implants because, I mean, audiology is their job. Like, that's, of course, that's what they're going to talk about. And, you know, there's such a big history of sign language being bad. Sign language will stunt the growth of a deaf child, will, you know, keep the child's brain from developing as if, you know, they won't have access to language or whatever. It has always been for so long that speaking is greater than signing. Ableist Society's words, not mine, let me clarify, say again. And when you hear that for so long, over and over and over, when you see these first time videos, you know, deaf baby hears music, hears sound for the first time, deaf man, deaf woman, mostly it's the babies. If you really want to feel good, you're gonna get a baby in the video, right? They portray this false idea of that activating anything, any sort of assistive device, is automatically this very good thing. It's rainbows and sunshine from here. What they don't see is after the 30 seconds that are shown of the baby, the person be like, oh, a smiling baby. There's so much therapy and stuff involved. There's so much work involved, and being overwhelmed will occur. I've seen obviously videos of people just recently who have been overwhelmed by the hearing aids after just half an hour. I get overwhelmed having these on for so long. So when I have them on for like a full day because of work or something, I get headaches and I don't really want to deal with them anymore for like another like 48 hours. Which brings me to this one topic that really had me and a couple of others heated on Twitter. And that is it negligence to not implant your deaf child? I remember quote tweeting some stuff that said, why would you not want to improve the life of your child if you can? And people going so far as to say it is absolutely negligent. It is negligence to not implant your child or fix them or whatever if you have the financial means, etc., to do so. That's what really irritated me. Those three words, negligence and child abuse. Not implanting is none of those things. And that's kind of a slap in the face to like actual child abuse that happens. Hi, child abuse victim here. And not because I didn't have a cochlear implant or anything. So yes, there are deaf people out there who don't sign. They only have, you know, hearing aids or cochlear implants, and they've gone on to have lives that thrive, right? They've gone to college or they've had a job or both, you know, they have a career, and that's great for them. There are also deaf people who grew up without hearing aids, without cochlear implants, or maybe they do have those but they don't always use them. Maybe they only sometimes use them, or they've gotten rid of them, or they still have them on, they still use them all the time, and they also have a life. They're thriving, they've gone to school, they have a job, etc., they have marriage and kids or whatever, right? Now, here's the thing. Having both of these scenarios, we still have the history of oppression and other things, right? But the deafness is not what causes that. It's the ableist society that causes that. And to be quite frank, even with the cochlear implant, with the hearing aids, that doesn't stop. Having a hearing aid, having a cochlear implant is not an automatic cure-all. It does not guarantee anything. There are people who have had a cochlear implants activated and they've worked, and there are people who have gotten the very expensive procedure done, the surgery and all, and they ended up not working. So again, they're not guarantees. So I think there's just a really huge issue of people not really understanding how those things work, and a part of that is really largely due to those first time videos and just what the industry keeps on saying, the ableism and society keeps on saying. And that's what this episode is trying to push against, and what this episode is trying to teach. However, in conclusion, I don't think this episode did a very good job of that. I don't know. I'm having a back and forth, like a toss up between, did the episode do very, very well in that? But of course, so we get to the end, to the very end, where Ava now, she used to have a hearing lawyer, and then they switched to a deaf lawyer who was played by Lauren Ridloff. of course, the wonderful Lauren Medlock. And I actually do like that change because obviously the hearing lawyer was doing nothing for her. And I don't mean that in a sense of like, oh, he's not getting her off scot-free or whatever. I mean in like language barriers, if you will, right? Yes, Ava knows English, but ASL is going to be that language that she really knows how to express herself in. And the lawyer's just not really getting that and doesn't really understand it, whereas now you have the deaf lawyer whose character name I have forgotten, and so there's that language barrier that gets broken, and now Ava can express herself a little bit more freely, understand the questions a little bit more easier, because these two people know how to communicate with each other, right? I mean, yes, you have interpreters and all that with, but there's just a difference there. And at the end of the day, Ava gets off like scot-free, which I find so bizarre. No, Ava should not have kidnapped Lucy. It's just like KJ said, Ava signed away her rights when she gave Lucy to Max and Jenny. Yes, Max and Jenny can do whatever they want at the end of the day. That is their child, so they have the right to do whatever they want. I do understand Ava being very conflicted about that and being very upset. She carried this child for 9 months. She's developed an emotional attachment, and now the child is also deaf. So now what she's seeing is everything that she's had experienced in life and what she experiences now being pushed onto Lucy. So I get why she's having a really big problem with that. But obviously kidnapping a child is a crime. And again, you signed away your rights to have her and, you know, to have any decisions on what is done with Lucy. And the fact that she got away scot-free was really mind-boggling to me. Now, you don't even give her like a community service? Like at the very least you could have had her done some community service because she still stole a baby that is not hers and ran off with it. And it didn't really seem like she had any plan, any other resources. She was just like, alright, gonna pick this baby up and take her to Michigan and call it a day. So at the very least, you could have given the woman like community service. And one thing I absolutely would not have done, and also I know that part of her sentence or lack thereof was because Max and Jenny wanted to drop the charges or whatever. Okay. But one thing I absolutely would not have done at the end of it all is invited Ava to come back to my house to help take care of Jenny and have like resources on learning ASL or whatever. And yes, Max has this sudden turnaround of I want to learn ASL for my baby and we're not gonna do anything, I guess, or we're gonna, you know, be more careful about our options or whatever. I mean, I'm glad Max is no longer up ahead about it, but it did seem very, very sudden and weird. But yeah, I still would not have invited her back to the house. If you really wanted somebody to learn about deaf resources and stuff from, get somebody else. I mean, this was in Ohio, right? Deaf Nation had an event in Ohio, so I'm sure you could find a community in Ohio. But like, don't let it be Ava. Like, I would just completely break the relationship because now you really don't know what Ava's gonna do next. If Ava could have done it once, it's very possible that she could do it again. Kidnapping, not good. All in all, this episode was a bit of a mess, to be honest. The director of the episode was Marlee Matlin, but the writer was somebody else, and I'm not entirely sure if the writer is hearing or not. But regardless, like, it just was just a really oddly written episode that I think was significantly weaker than the previous one that once again is not related to the second episode at all. None of the episodes are supposed to be related as far as I know. But it was just weird. It felt very weak. I couldn't really get as invested as I wanted to be. But I get the point that they were trying to make, and I can appreciate the fact that they wanted to let the world know that being deaf is not bad. I don't know. With that all being said though, once again, the moral of the story is, there's a couple moral of the stories. 1, don't kidnap anybody. 2, being deaf in itself is not bad. Having cochlear implants and just cochlear implants in general and hearing aids in general also are not inherently or automatically bad just because they are what they are. What is bad is the ableist attitude towards deafness and this like really trying to drive at home mission that it's the worst thing in the world, so we need to improve, we need to fix or whatever automatically without really looking at all the other options or combining options, and we need to fix the ableist attitude in society that just contributes to all of that, which I noticed in the last couple of months. We're really seeing, you know, deaf stories being written not only just in front of the camera, because yes, deaf representation in front of the camera is really, really nice seeing people act, but often the stories may still be written by hearing people, so it's not quite the same. or directed by hearing people, which is not quite the same. It's helpful, yes, but we still need more deaf people in the mainstream behind the camera as well, directing, writing, you know, whatever else. So it's been nice to see that happen a lot lately with New Amsterdam, Law and Order recently just had an episode on SVU, and now this. So that's been nice to see. So hopefully we can keep on improving on that and bringing more awareness to that of what actually happens, and not just this like fairy tale version that mainstream media and an industry seems to. Oh no, I think Accused is going to be a very interesting show. The first episode was great. This episode, the episode that is supposed to be on next, I don't know when, because I feel like they change the air dates every single time. Seems interesting, and I'm excited to see more. So let me know what you thought of the episode, all of this stuff that's being talked about down below in the comments. If you would like more content like this, exclusive and extra content, I do have a Patreon page, so thank you to everyone that has been pledging since the last video where I did. Thank you, I appreciate that. Really supporting the work of a disabled creator. There is also a tip jar down here, so you can tip $1 or $2 if you would like, if you don't want to go off somewhere to another page, you don't want to do like a monthly thing, a one-time thing, or an every once in a while thing. Works down here just as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and I will see you later.